Hello everyone and welcome to Tao Te Ching Chapter 5. Let's go. Heaven and earth are not compassionate. They treat all things as a straw dog. The enlightened are not compassionate, treating the common people as a straw dog. The space between heaven and earth, is it not like bellows? Empty and unbending, yet more coming out of it, the more it moves. Using many words to point out what is wrong in others is inferior to focusing on oneself. So, Tao Te Ching Chapter 5. Here we are. Heaven and earth are not compassionate. They treat all things as a straw dog. What should that mean? Well, to understand this, we have to know that a straw dog, a dog made of straw, is a sacrificial thing. The people sacrificed for the gods in ancient China, as opposed to real dogs. Okay, in ancient times they had real sacrifices of real living dogs, but at some point in history they started to use straw dogs in the place of real dogs. So a straw dog is something in the place of a real dog. It is something which takes the place, okay? So straw dog stands for something else. Straw dog is something that points to a deeper reality, okay? So heaven and earth are not compassionate. They treat all things as a straw dog. That means heaven and earth, which is the Tao, which is everything, they are not compassionate, which means they don't judge. They don't judge over what happens to you is good or bad. It just doesn't matter. What matters is that whatever happens is a straw dog. Okay? It is not about the superficial level on which the things occur. It is really about what is the deeper meaning behind what is happening in reality. Okay, so it's about, this first line is about the different layers of reality. They treat all things as a straw dog. So all things in our world do not matter as themselves, but they matter because they stand for something deeper. They are the signs on the outside for what is happening inside. They are the superficial layer pointing to the deeper reality beneath. Okay. So, second line. The enlightened are not compassionate, treating the common people as a straw dog as well. So, we have very often in the Tao Te Ching, we have these two, like we have what the Tao does on the one side, and then we have what the enlightened, the wise, the sages do as a consequence of what the Tao does. Okay, so the enlightened are not compassionate as well as heaven and earth, treating the common people as a straw dog. So the enlightened do also don't care too much about the surface, and that's important to grasp. It's not about they are not compassionate, meaning that they do not care about what is happening to other people. They do, and they help. Like if you look at the Taoist sages of the ancient past, like they always were, normally they were the physicians, and they were the best physicians at those times, because they were interested in the deeper relations between nature and humankind, and of course, the nature of illnesses itself and the nature of medicine. So they were the ones who cared the most, but they cared without feeling pity. They did not sit beside the sick ones and cry with them. Okay? Because they knew that wouldn't make any sense, because the one who is sick is bearing the consequences of what is the deeper meaning of the illness he's contracting. Okay, so, and that is kind of I hope it makes sense the way I explain it. It is this wrong kind of compassion where you feel so much with somebody else that you feel bad yourself. Okay, that is what is meant here. The enlightened are not compassionate, because that type of compassion, when you become the victim yourself because someone else is suffering, that is really not healthy. It is helping no one, because when you suffer yourself, then you cannot help the other person. Okay, the enlightened are not that kind of compassionate. The enlightened know that which is happening to the common people, to the world around them, is a straw dog. It's all pointing to a deeper reality. And of course, that bears the consequence that if the common people would look at the deeper reality as well and grasp the reason why they are sick, for example, they would heal. Okay, and that is something which is explored deeper in the Taoist healing tradition called the Shanren Dao tradition. So this is what is meant here. Okay, it's all about the deeper reality beneath that what we can see on the outside. Okay. So, and now comes an interesting line. The space between heaven and earth, is it not like bellows? And this is so interesting because this reminds me of a line in the Bible, Genesis. It's Genesis 1, actually. Just have to find it. Yeah, Genesis 1, King James Bible. There is it. Genesis 1, verse 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And 7, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And this I find very interesting, because this, what is described here as firmament, this space between heaven and earth, because that what it's how it is described here, the space between heaven and earth, this space in between, that is, I think, the same in both those lines which is described. Okay, the space between heaven and earth, is it not like bellows? Okay, bellows, because, and then comes the next line, empty and unbending. So a bellow is empty because there's only air in there, right? But it's unbending. You cannot, you cannot compress it. It's very hard. It's very firm. So empty and unbending, yet more coming out of it the more it moves. Okay, and there we have again this idea which we already discovered in chapter 4, which is the Tao is constantly giving. It's constantly pouring, but it's never empty. It never gets to a point where, it's empty. It's just not happening. So the more it moves, the more is happening, but still it is empty. And when you think this line together with the previous lines, so everything which is happening is a straw dog. Everything which is happening in the common world and to common people is a straw dog. It's just a surface we see which points at a deeper reality. And now we have the heaven between the space between heaven and earth is like bellows, which is also empty. Nothing is really happening, though if you move it, there is a lot coming out. So if you think that together, it means that, yeah, we can, by doing things, by talking, by arguing, by doing anything in the common world, we can create a lot of movement and a lot of action and a lot of drama and whatsoever. But in the end, it is like bellows. It's empty. Nothing is really happening. Nothing of importance is really happening. Because it's a straw dog. It's empty space. Okay. So, and now comes the last line. And the last line is, as very often in those chapters of the Tao Te Ching, the last line is kind of, what do we do now? Now, as we have grasped the wisdom in those lines, what do we do with that to benefit our own lives? Okay. And here it is said, using many words to point out what is wrong in others is inferior to focusing on oneself. Okay, so this means now that because as we know that everything we see outside, all the drama, all which is happening, all other people are doing and all of that, those are straw dogs, okay? Those are not the real thing. What matters is how we act upon that, okay? What do we do with it? Because we are responsible primarily for our own behavior in the world, our own conduct in the world. So we can, what is said here means that we can use a lot of words to look at the failures of others, to look at all what the straw dogs do out there. But it won't bring us anywhere. In fact, it will do us harm. It will make us sick. I can state that very firmly because I see it in the clinic. People who focus on the wrongdoing of others, they get sick. Because that's what we cannot change anyway. We cannot change others. So when we just focus on that part of reality, we get sick. Because it's sickening to not be able to do anything. It is playing the victim and not taking responsibility. Because responsibility we can only take for our own action. And this what is said here. Using many words to point out what is wrong in others is inferior to focusing on oneself. Because the wise men know that we only can change ourselves. And everything outside of us, well, in the end, they are straw dogs. We cannot really, yeah, of course we can act on that, but it won't bring us anywhere. We should really focus on our own behavior, on how we act, on what we do, on developing our character so that we become better, so that we play our part well. Okay, and that is helping. Okay, this one is very complicated indeed. I hope I kind of shed some light on these ideas, and I hope my English is good enough to illustrate what I find in those lines. Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in more of this content, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell and comment and maybe leave a like. Yeah, that would be great. And of course, I would like to see you back on this channel later. again, so thank you so much for your time, and see you again. Bye bye.